the effort entails.
Time now for Inside Utah Politics.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Glenn Mills. It is time to go inside Utah politics. Today, we welcome to the show former Governor Gary Herbert and former First Lady Jeanette Herbert. So glad to have both of you on the show today. Thanks so much for making time for us.
Well, thank you, Glenn. It's good to be with you.
Let's get right into the adjustment. You had a very busy, structured schedule for the better part of some 11 years. I imagine it's quite a bit different now. Talk to us about the adjustment and how that's working out.
Well, we've gone from 70-hour weeks to 40-hour weeks. So there's an adjustment of a lighter workload and a change, in our assignments and what we're doing. Looking forward to the next chapter in our lives, and particularly anxious to be working with Utah Valley University and the Herbert Institute for Public Policy. And so that's going to consume a lot of our time going forward.
Jeanette, let's bring you in now. What do you make of the new schedule and how things are playing out?
Well, it's an adjustment for sure. We've been so busy that it really is one of the best things. When we went down to St. George for the inauguration, because we both golf, we were able to stay down there, and we stayed for a week, golfed, relaxed, just kind of turned the TV off. And I saw, it was like the weight of the world had been taken off Gary's shoulders. I mean, you really could see a visible difference at that time. It's hard to get used to, for sure, but there's chapters in your life, and we're moving on, and we're going to do our best with the next chapter.
Are you keeping him busy around the home more so now than maybe previously?
You better believe it.
We're still trying to unpack. The worst thing about moving is packing and unpacking. So we got a few boxes to get through yet, and she's keeping me awfully busy.
All right, so quite a bit on the honey-do list. Good to know. Hey, Governor, I've noticed you've been tweeting some lately. Is that you doing that?
Of course it's me. With a little help from my family, we talked about things that we should weigh in on, and we want to still make sure that people know we're paying attention and watching, and I'm very optimistic about the future of Utah. We're in a good place. Certainly in comparison to other states, we're doing wonderfully well, and I appreciate the latest, my last month really was December, and the latest report just came out for economic growth, and the unemployment rate's at 3.6%, about the lowest in the nation. So we're in a good place. We have work to do with the pandemic, but the trends we've got are very good.
I want to take a look back about working together. The dynamic of the governor and first lady is very interesting to me because it's nothing that we really got to see publicly. But what was it like behind closed doors? Jeanette, let's start with you on that. Did you discuss policy? Were there differences? Talk about the relationship between the two from his job of running the state.
Well, anytime you start something new, there's always adjustments to make. And becoming the First Lady was very intimidating to me. I was didn't know exactly what my role should be or what I wanted it to be. And so it took a little while to kind of work into that. But as far as working together, I think you get into a situation like this, and I know what his role as governor would be. And as far as mine, I just kind of created my own. I made my own initiative, Uplift Families, which is a parenting initiative, and move forward with that. So we both kind of have our different things that we're focusing on, but we're always kind of on the same page also. We talk politics, we talk about issues, we discuss them with our family around the Sunday dinner table, and so it's something that I don't know about dynamic, but we are a duo. We try to get
Governor,
along.
talk about that. How much did you lean on your wife during your time as governor to make important decisions for the state?
Well, she's always been a great partner and a great counselor, and so clearly as issues come up, they're in the media, we talk about them, and she's very willing to give her opinion. I usually ask for opinion, but even when I don't ask, she weighs in and lets me know. We mostly agree on everything. We're conservative Republicans, and we love Utah and the people here and the culture. But we sometimes are not on the same page, but I always listen to what she has to say. She gives me good advice and counsel. And then whatever happens as we move ahead, she's always been very supportive. So she's been good to lean on, for me to be able to lean on her, and she's done a great job as First Lady. You know, she ran the National Governors Association's First Spouses organization when I was the chairman. So she's had a lot of things to do, not only here in Utah, but around the country.
Jeanette, I'd like to get your opinion on what you thought of the governor's cameo in Sharknado.
That was kind of
Was
a
there
funny
any
thing.
discussion that went on for
That
that?
kind of came about because of the
Comic-Con.
Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And that's when they asked him to do that. We had no idea what Sharknado was. You know, we weren't big followers. And so
You're not
when
missing
he,
much.
When he agreed to do that, in fact, they asked me at one time if I wanted to do it, and I said, well, just let him do it. And we went home, told our children, and they said, Dad, don't do it.
In fact, they said your political career is over.
Well, Governor, I know that you and your team talked about it, but to be honest with you, I appreciated it. I liked that you stepped up and did that and showed a personal side.
Well, it was kind of fun, and actually, as I've gone around the country, it's not been uncommon for them to introduce me and say, and here's a little known fact, and they'd show the clip from Sharknado. So it turned
Very
out to be a
nice.
positive thing.
All right, I'd like to know what you're most proud of in your time of office from both of you. But I'd like to do a little twist here. Governor, generations down the road, when they look back at your administration, what will the First Lady's legacy be?
Oh, well, I think it's a number of things. One, she's been very good at keeping track of our family. And for me, and for what I think is important, our Sunday dinners that we have every week with all of our family, all the children get together, all the grandchildren get together, and so we've been able to stay close in contact. That's the first legacy, which carries over to her initiative on Uplift families to help them. We know they're the cornerstone of society. She's had this initiative to help people learn about parenting skills. No matter what your circumstances are, how can you do a better job? And lastly, I think something that people don't know much about is that she's been a very strong proponent for the arts. When we did our educational initiative and tried to improve educational achievement, we talked about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And Jeanette says, don't forget the arts. That's the creative side of your brain. That needs to be developed and trained also. And so we changed STEM at her urging. I changed it from STEM to STEAM, science, technology, engineering, and arts, and math. And of course, she's been in charge of the Governor's Artist Series, which we do 3 times a year and recognize Utah artists. So those are just a few of the many things that she'll be remembered for.
Jeanette, as future generations look back on your husband's time as the governor, what will his legacy be?
I think the fact that it's been it's the best run state in the country, and when you think about that, that's out of 50 states. And so to be #1 in nearly every measurable area is really quite something. And this decade, the Kim Gardner Institute actually said that this was the most productive decade, the best decade financially as well as otherwise in the last 10 years. And so
In Utah's history.
Utah's history.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of his legacy. But the other part, I think they'll remember him because he is a person that knows how to bring people together. And I think that's one of his big fortes, is that he can bring people from both sides together. When he first got in office, he was a little concerned about all the problems that were going on with education. You couldn't get them to speak to each other. You know, you had the unions on one side, you had parents on one side. And so one of the first things he did is he set up his education commission, and he had, I think, 25 different people on there from every walk of life. And he literally put them in a room, shut the doors, and he would go in every single month, once a month for 4 hours, and they would hash out things. When he first started, there were people that wouldn't even sit by each other, and within 6 months, I think they had 17 resolutions unanimously passed. And
We were able to build some consensus. That really was a remarkable achievement, as people were so divided on education and what to do. And we brought people together. It doesn't mean it's unanimous, but it did build consensus. And it's led us to become a very well-performing education system in Utah. We're in the top 10 in about every measurable way now.
I came back to Utah in 2013. I covered your administration closely ever since then. And there's one thing I want to bring up that I always appreciated. I would be out covering late night events. One that comes to mind particularly was a town hall at Weber State. And I sat and watched that night as you stayed and talked to every single person in that crowd who wanted to come have some of your time. Jeanette, were there times where you're saying, oh boy, we're never going to make it to the next meeting?
you know, it doesn't matter where we're at. We can be driving down to St. George and stop in the Dairy Queen to get a milkshake. In fact, They actually know his favorite milkshake down there, chocolate banana shake, and practically have it ready for him when he walks in the door. So he's kind of got a legacy down there from his milkshakes. But no matter who's there, they'll come up. Usually, most people are very kind. They'll say, "You're doing a great job. We just want to let you know. Can we get a picture?" He'll always get a picture with them, and then he'll sit and talk to them about issues, you know. But anytime we go to an event, you're right. No matter what the event is, we're sweeping the floor on the way out. And there are a few times that I have to go up and kind of start tugging on his coattail and say, "Come on, it's time to go." But I think that's one of his very admirable qualities, that he's willing to spend that time with people, listen to them, and I think people really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think you're right for sure. Okay, we're going to have more with you coming up, so stay tight. We'll have more with the Herberts coming up right after the break. Also, a little bit later in the show today.
You're watching Inside Utah Politics.
All right, we are continuing our conversation with former Governor Gary Herbert and former First Lady Jeanette Herbert. Thanks for sticking with us for another segment. Governor, I'd like to know what you're going to miss the most.
Well, there's a lot of things we're going to miss, but mostly the people we associate with. I've had the best staff ever assembled, I think, in the history of Utah. We've done some really good things, but it's been a team effort. And really, I consider Team Utah, and all of us have a role to play throughout the state. So I'll miss the association with the people we've met with, the opportunity we've had to be engaged in policy making and have Utah at the forefront of our concern. That's been a fun thing to do. We've taken the message of Utah throughout the country and throughout the world. We've had the opportunity to meet with wonderful people, heads of state, religious leaders, business leaders, people we never would have dreamed we've been able to meet. And so it's been a great experience, and we're going to miss those opportunities going forward.
What are you going to miss the most, Jeanette?
Finding a parking spot.
The Hunger Games, you're joining the game.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that you just start taking for granted after it happens enough times. And we had the best security in the world, and they are just top notch. But they, we never had to worry about finding a parking spot. Getting into places. We'd go to the airport, and we didn't have to go through security. And so there's a lot of those little perks that you'll kind of miss. But there again, the people that we've worked with are it's just amazing, the relationships that we've built. Hopefully they will remain, many of them. But we've met some incredible people worldwide that I know normally, in normal life I'd never be able to meet any of them. We've sat down with presidents, we've eaten with presidents. It's pretty amazing when you really look at it, but we will miss those things.
If you take a look back at the 11 plus years that you were in office, social media really became a key factor in politics. I'm curious, I know both of you had accounts. I know I'm connected with you on social media as well, Jeanette. Do you read the comments when you put out posts on social media?
Are you asking me or Jeanette?
Let's start with you, Governor.
I try to avoid the comment section, and that's at the advice of my staff members who watch everything pretty closely. We have a communications team to help us with social media, as well as our contacts with print media, visual media, all those aspects of how we communicate with the public. I'm a little concerned about what's happened with social media. It's been a blessing in many ways. A lot of good things happen. We can communicate a lot better and easier than ever before. But there's an underbelly of some of our social media, the comments where people hide under the guise of anonymity. And they say things they would never say to people to their face. And they can say anything. It could be true or it could be false. And so it cuts both ways. It's kind of the new future, and some of it's good. But I like the old days when people would do their letters to the editor and they'd sign their name. They could be held accountable for what they said. Maybe we ought to go to the comment section and say you can make comments, but you ought to sign your name so you can be held accountable and people know who you are and some of the mean things that are being said and be held accountable.
Jeanette, I'm sure at some point you probably saw some of the mean things that were being said. How did you respond to that? What did you think about that?
Well, I kind of made it a rule also. When he first got into office, after reading just a few of them, I thought, I can't go there. I have to just rely on the fact that I know that what he's doing the best job, that he knows how, he's doing things in a principled way. And so I don't need to worry about, what these other people are saying. However, recently, especially with this pandemic, we've seen a new side of people that has been really concerning over social media. And it's something that I didn't think I would see. Utah's been known for the happy people, for the friendly people. Every time we have someone come in the state, then that's what they comment on, is how happy people are, how friendly people are. This is a reputation that I would like to maintain here and be an example to the rest of the nation. And so I hope that those that have gotten into that habit over social media of being negative and saying things that normally they wouldn't say will kind of look at that and say, okay, what am I doing right now to better the world, to better the relationships that we have both in the state as well as nationwide, and make a little course correction if that's needed, because I just really feel like it's important that we really need to spread love, not hate, and especially in the world right now, it's critically important. So.
I couldn't agree with you more on that, but it seems we're to the point where this is even spilling over into public. I mean, we now see members of Congress being harassed at the airport. The two of you had protesters right outside of your home. What was that like?
It was strange because it never happened before, and of course we've had people, I believe in the right to assemble and protest, but there's a right way to do things and a wrong way. And certainly coming to in front of the mansion or at the Capitol, having a protest there or assembling and having a rally, that's appropriate. But disrupting my neighbors and causing chaos there and a security issue, people wearing guns, coming with their AK-47s and open carry, for what purpose? It just sends an incorrect message. So we need to think about being civil, being respectful, understand there's different points of view and loving each other in spite of those differences. That's what happens with Jeanette and I. We have different points of view, but we love each other and show that. And so we can do better as a people. We can do better as a nation. We need to do better. And certainly we need to change some of our bad behavior and be more civil and respectful.
Okay,
politics.
We have about a minute and a half left. Real quick, I'd be really interested in your thoughts on this, Jeanette. Your thoughts on today's GOP?
Very concerning, very concerning. I think it's almost like it's become two different parties. I know that there's a lot of people that consider themselves Republicans that are basically more libertarian, or they say I'm a constitutionalist or whatever, and yet they call anyone else in the party rhinos, so it's kind of an interesting thing. It's really hard because I understand that there's all different levels of viewpoints, but there's a way that we can do things and get along and come together that we can, agree on certain things. I remember, well, I don't have time for that, but basically people saying, I agreed with the governor on everything else, but I can't agree with him on this one issue, and so I'm not going to vote for him this time. That's not the way it should be. It's unfortunate that that's the way things are happening.
Let me just add, I know you're out of time here, but I know Doug Ducey. He's a friend of mine, and I supported his election the first time and his re-election. And he's doing what he thinks he's compelled to do under the law and under the Constitution. And to be censured by the Republican Party for that seems to be a very slippery slope that we don't want to fall down on. Okay. So again, we have difference of opinion. We should still support each other. I'm a Ronald Reagan, broad tent Republican. If you agree with me 80% of the time, as he said, you're my friend.
All right. Such an incredible conversation. I'm so glad the two of you were able to come in together and have this conversation. I do want to let our viewers know real quick that what's next for the governor is he's going to be opening up an institute at UVU.
I'm excited about that. Yeah, an opportunity for us to talk to the young people, have a lecture series, internships, and talk about what's important, what has made America great, and what's made Utah great. So I'm going to look forward to that opportunity to be a little more professorial. And I taught down there for a number of years before. I'm going to go back to teaching again.
All right. Thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Great conversation.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Coming up, racial equality, how President Biden is taking matters into his own hands. We'll get to that after the break.